Two homeless twins, a snowstorm, and a stranger's kindness. What began as a desperate fight for survival turned into a life-changing journey fueled by talent, trust, and a second chance. You won't believe how their gift transformed not just their future, but the heart of the man who saved them. Please support us by liking this video and subscribe to our channel. The wind howled through the narrow alleyways of Bozeman, Montana, turning the already frigid night into a full-blown blizzard. Snow piled up in drifts against storefronts and cars, blanketing the entire town in a sheet of white. Most people were huddled indoors, hot cocoa in hand, enjoying the safety of their heated homes. But not everyone had that luxury. 14-year-old twins Lily and Logan Miller trudged through the snow, each carrying a bulging duffel bag slung over one shoulder. Their jackets were too thin for the weather, and their sneakers were soaked through. They hadn't planned to get caught in the storm. It came in faster than the forecast had predicted. They were orphans, technically. Their mother had passed away 2 years ago, and their father had disappeared shortly after. Foster care hadn't worked out. After bouncing between 3 homes, they decided it was better to look out for each other on their own. They'd been couch surfing ever since, sleeping in shelters when there was room and keeping under the radar. Tonight had been especially rough. The shelter was full. The woman at the desk had offered them a blanket and granola bar, but no bed, so they walked. "We should try the diner," Logan said through chattering teeth. "At least it's warm in there." "They'll kick us out again," Lily replied, her voice muffled by her scarf. "They don't like us hanging around." As they turned onto a quieter street, the wind eased a bit. Lily spotted a narrow alley between 2 buildings. "We can camp out there for the night. It'll block the wind." Reluctantly, Logan nodded. They huddled together in the alley, using their bags as makeshift pillows and curling up beneath their shared blanket. Logan pulled a small, worn notebook from his coat pocket. It was wrapped in plastic to protect it from the elements. He flipped to a blank page and took out a pencil. "What are you doing?" Lily asked. "Writing," he replied. "If we ever make it out of this, I want to remember everything. Maybe turn it into a book one day." Lily gave a tired smile. Logan had always been the dreamer. She reached into her bag and pulled out a harmonica, something their mom had taught them both to play. The soft notes filled the alleyway, strange and beautiful against the bitter cold. They didn't know that just around the corner, a black SUV had pulled to a stop at a red light. Inside, a man in his 50s glanced down the alley out of habit. He spotted them. 2 kids, clearly freezing, huddled in the snow. His name was Charles Whitaker, and he had more money than he could ever spend. But what he saw in that moment would change not just the twins' lives, but his own. He didn't drive off when the light turned green. He parked. Charles Whitaker didn't consider himself a soft man. As the founder of a wildly successful chain of outdoor sporting goods stores, he'd earned every dollar through grit, long nights, and a relentless drive to succeed. But lately, wealth hadn't filled the void in his life the way he once thought it would. His wife had passed 3 winters ago, and his only daughter barely spoke to him anymore. He'd come to Bozeman to escape the noise of city life. But even in the silence, he couldn't outrun the loneliness. Tonight was different. Something tugged at him when he saw those 2 kids huddled in the alley. He put the SUV in park and stepped out into the snow. The wind bit at his cheeks as he crossed the sidewalk. He approached cautiously, not wanting to startle them. The girl noticed first and immediately clutched her duffel tighter. "We don't want any trouble," she said firmly, standing between Charles and her brother. Charles held up both hands. "It's all right. I'm not here to hurt you." Logan rose slowly, his notebook half hidden beneath his coat. "Who are you?" "My name's Charles. I was just passing through when I saw you 2, he said. "You shouldn't be out here in weather like this." "We don't have a choice," Lily replied. Her voice was guarded, but there was no hostility, just exhaustion. Charles hesitated. He didn't know the full story, but it didn't take much to see they were in a bad situation. And that notebook, the way the boy protected it, told Charles there was something deeper going on. "I've got a place nearby, warm, safe, and a lot of hot food. You're welcome to come. No strings attached." Lily and Logan exchanged glances. They'd learned the hard way to be suspicious of kindness, But something in Charles's voice felt honest. "What's the catch?" Logan asked. "No catch," Charles said. "Just trying to help." Still unsure, Lily nodded once. "Just for tonight." Charles opened the SUV's back doors, and the twins climbed in, still holding their bags tightly. As the car pulled away from the curb, Logan asked, "Why are you helping us?" Charles thought for a moment. "Because someone once helped me when I was your age, and I've never forgotten it." Back at his lodge, a spacious but humble cabin nestled against the edge of the forest, Charles ushered them in and turned up the heat. The scent of cedar and old books filled the room. He handed them each a towel and motioned toward the guest bathroom. "Get warm, I'll make some soup." While Charles stirred the pot, he peeked into the living room. Logan sat near the fireplace, sketching something in his notebook. Lily sat beside him, softly playing her harmonica. The music floated through the house, haunting and beautiful. Charles paused. There was something about these kids, something more than just their situation. Something special. The fire crackled softly in the hearth as Charles watched the twins from the kitchen. Lily's harmonica filled the room with a tune so soulful it made his chest tighten. It wasn't just music. It was emotion, pure and unfiltered, the kind of sound that could quiet a storm. Logan sat cross-legged, scribbling in his notebook with a focus that rivaled any artist Charles had ever met. Dinner was a simple chicken noodle soup, served with warm rolls and hot cocoa. The twins ate slowly at first, wary, but hunger eventually overtook hesitation. Once they were full and thawed out, Charles cleared the table and invited them to sit by the fire. "So," he said, easing into his favorite leather armchair, "tell me something. That music, and your writing, is that something you both do a lot?" Lily nodded. "Our mom taught us music before she passed. Said it was our way out." "And the writing?" Charles asked Logan. "I write stories. Songs too, sometimes," Logan replied, glancing down shyly. "But mostly about people like us, trying to make sense of the world." Charles leaned forward. "You ever show anyone?" "Number just Lily." "Why not?" Logan shrugged. "People don't usually care what kids like us have to say." Charles didn't argue, but he didn't agree either. "Let me tell you something," he said. "I built my whole business on a single idea, one that everyone said wouldn't work. You know what I learned?" Lily tilted her head, curious. "That the world listens to passion, even if it doesn't understand it at first." The twins were quiet for a moment. Logan slowly took his notebook from his coat and handed it over. "You can read it if you want." Charles accepted it gently, as if it were made of glass. He flipped through the pages, reading snippets of poems, short scenes, even lyrics scribbled between drawings. It was raw, but it was real, powerful. He closed the notebook and looked at Logan. "You've got something special, kid. Don't ever let anyone convince you otherwise." Logan blinked fast, hiding his emotions behind his glasses. Lily offered a small smile, one of the first genuine ones Charles had seen. "I've got an idea," Charles said. "You two stay here for a while. There's a spare room upstairs with 2 beds. You're safe here, and in the morning, we'll talk more about what comes next." "You don't have to do this," Lily said cautiously. "I know," Charles replied, "but maybe I want to." Outside, the storm continued to howl, but inside the lodge, a quiet warmth settled in. The twins didn't know it yet, but their lives had just turned a corner. And Charles, for the first time in years, he felt like he had a purpose again. The next morning, the storm had finally passed. The world outside Charles Whitaker's lodge was blanketed in a thick coat of snow that sparkled under the early sun. It looked like something out of a painting, quiet, still, and pristine. Inside, the smell of bacon and pancakes filled the air. Lily and Logan emerged from the guest room slowly, unsure if the warmth and safety they'd experienced the night before had been real or just a dream. But the moment they stepped into the kitchen and saw Charles at the stove in a flannel robe, flipping pancakes with an old radio, humming jazz in the background, they knew it was real. "Sleep all right?" Charles asked, handing them plates. "Better than we have in months," Lily said, sitting down with a sigh. "Years," Logan added under his breath. They ate in peaceful silence until Charles pulled up a chair across from them. "So, I've been thinking, you two need more than a roof and hot meals. You need direction. And that notebook, that music, it's a gift. Maybe even a ticket out of all this. Lily raised an eyebrow. You think people are going to care about some harmonica playing and scribbles in a journal? I don't think, Charles said. I know. Back when I was building my business, I met a lot of people with talent, but very few with passion. You two have both, but the world's never going to see it unless someone helps shine a light on it. What do you mean? Logan asked. Charles leaned forward, energized. I've still got connections, friends in publishing, contacts in the arts. Let me help you shape your stories. And Lily, your music? That's something special. We'll record a few pieces, start small. I know a guy who runs a podcast that features undiscovered artists. Lily blinked. You're serious? Dead serious, Charles said. This is bigger than charity. You've got voices the world needs to hear. The twins didn't answer right away. It was almost too much to process. Just days ago, they'd been sleeping behind a dumpster, trying to survive another night. Now someone believed in them, really believed. You'd do that for us? Logan asked quietly. Charles nodded. Someone once took a chance on me. Saved my life, actually. I've never had the chance to pay it forward, until now. Lily stared at her harmonica, fingers running over its worn edges. I always thought this thing was just a reminder of our mom. Never thought it could be a key to something bigger. Logan flipped to a fresh page in his notebook. His mind was already spinning with new ideas. Let's do it, he said. Charles smiled. Then let's get to work. It wasn't about fame or money. For the first time, the twins saw a future, one shaped by their own creativity. And Charles, he felt something stir inside him, a feeling he hadn't known in years. Hope. 2 weeks passed, and the Miller twins' lives were almost unrecognizable. The lodge had become more than shelter. It was now a home, a creative sanctuary. Charles had transformed one of his guest rooms into a makeshift studio, soundproofing the walls with blankets and foam panels. Logan had a small writing desk by the window with a view of the snowy forest, and Lily had her own corner with a microphone stand, recording equipment, and her mother's old harmonica, now polished and cared for. Every morning began with music and writing. Logan filled his notebook faster than ever, fueled by encouragement and fresh purpose. Charles helped him type and edit the best stories, and even reached out to a friend from Denver who ran an indie publishing company. The man agreed to take a look, intrigued by the idea of raw, heartfelt stories from a homeless teen with talent. Meanwhile, Lily recorded short musical pieces, haunting, bluesy melodies that blended harmonica with soft background chords. Charles's friend from the podcast world, a woman named Jo, fell in love with the recordings. There's something honest in this, she said on the phone. Send me more. One afternoon, as a heavy snow fell quietly outside, Charles gathered the twins in the living room. I've got new, he said, holding up his phone. Jo just featured Lily's music on her latest podcast episode. It's live. People are already commenting. Lily's eyes widened. Like, real people? Listening to me? Charles smiled. Thousands, kid. And they love it. Logan turned his notebook in his hands, gripping it tightly. Do you think people will care about my stories too? Charles looked him in the eye. They already do. He wasn't exaggerating. Logan's first short story had been published on a small digital magazine's blog just the day before. It was a piece called Shelter in the Storm, loosely based on the night they met Charles. The editor called it raw, emotional, and deeply human. The twins sat quietly for a moment, letting it all sink in. We were invisible, Lily said softly. Now we're not. Charles nodded. That's the power of your voice, of your gift. Logan smiled for the first time in days, not the polite smile he used with strangers, but a real one, wide, unguarded. We should write a song together. You play, I write, like we used to with Mom. Lily lit up. Yes, a tribute. Charles stood up. Then let's make it happen. As they got to work that evening, Charles watched them with quiet pride. He had mentored entrepreneurs before, invested in startups, and sat in rooms full of power players. But this, watching two kids rediscover themselves through art and purpose, this was the most meaningful investment he'd ever made. Outside, the snow kept falling, but inside, the fire burned bright. and so did the spark in the hearts of Lily and Logan Miller. By the end of the month, things had moved faster than any of them expected. Lily's harmonica pieces were being shared across social media, used in short films, podcasts, and even one commercial for a winter clothing brand. The haunting sound of her music struck a chord with people. Strangers sent messages filled with praise and encouragement, and even a few music producers had reached out, asking to speak with her. Logan's writing caught fire too. After his first story went up, the magazine asked for more. Then another outlet picked it up. Charles had to create a dedicated email just for Logan's fan messages. Some readers said the stories reminded them of their own hardships. Others said they cried reading his words. One morning, as the twins sat in their cozy workspace, a large envelope arrived by courier. Charles retrieved it from the porch and brought it inside, brushing snow off the top. "It's addressed to Logan," he said, handing it over. Logan carefully opened it and pulled out a thick letter with an official letterhead. High Ridge Academy for the Arts, Creative Youth Program, New York City. He read silently, his hands trembling slightly. Then he looked up at Lily, eyes wide. "They're offering me a full scholarship, a creative writing residency this summer." Lily's mouth fell open. "Wait, what?" "They read my story in the magazine. They want me to come work with professional authors and editors. They even said they'll fly me out." Charles smiled warmly. "I may have sent it to a friend who works with them." Logan stood frozen. "I've never even been on a plane." "You will now," Lily said, beaming. Then another notification chimed on Charles's phone. He raised his eyebrows and walked over to Lily. "You might want to read this one too," he said, holding the screen out. She scanned the message. It was from a record label, Sunlight Tracks, a Nashville-based indie label known for discovering unique voices. They were offering her a contract for a debut EP with the option to collaborate with other musicians. Lily stared blankly. "This can't be real." "It's real," Charles said, placing a hand on her shoulder. "They want to help you produce your music. Professional quality. You'd keep full creative control." Logan blinked at her. "You could actually do this. Like for real." "But I don't want to leave you," she said. "What if they fly you to New York and I'm down in Nashville?" Charles stepped in. "That's the thing about gifts. They're meant to be shared, even from different places. And I'll write every day," Logan promised. "We'll keep creating, apart or together." Tears welled up in Lily's eyes. "We started with nothing." "Not nothing," Charles corrected gently. "You had each other, and something the world needed." The three of them stood in silence, the weight of the moment settling in. For Lily and Logan Miller, the world had once felt cold and indifferent, but now it was opening its doors. 3 months later, the Miller twins stood together again, but this time not in a back alley or a snowy street. They were on stage at a local arts benefit concert in Denver, invited as special guests. Charles Whitaker sat in the front row, pride glowing on his face as the spotlight warmed his weathered hands. Lily stepped up to the mic first. Her harmonica hung from a leather strap around her neck, and beside her stood a small backing band, musicians she'd met through Sunlight Tracks. She looked out at the packed hall and swallowed hard. "I used to think nobody would ever hear me," she began, her voice steady despite the nerves. "My brother and I, we were invisible for a long time, until someone saw us." She glanced at Charles, who gave her a small, firm nod. "And now we just want to give back the hope that was given to us." She lifted the harmonica to her lips and played the song she and Logan had written together, "Shelter in the Storm." The melody was soft at first, winding like a memory, then swelling into something rich and emotional. The audience sat in complete silence, entranced. When she finished, Logan stepped forward. His posture had changed since that cold night they met Charles. He stood taller, more confident, a printed copy of his latest story in hand. "This is for anyone who's ever felt forgotten," he said. "Anyone who thought their story didn't matter." He read from Ashes and Ice, a story inspired by their journey, grief, survival, and the kindness of one man who refused to let them fall through the cracks. The crowd applauded when he finished, and several people rose to their feet. Backstage, as the applause died down, Charles met them with open arms. "You two have become exactly who you were meant to be," he said, voice thick with emotion. We couldn't have done any of this without you, Lily replied. Charles smiled, shaking his head. I just opened a door. You walked through it. Later that night, as snow began to fall again outside the concert hall, the trio stood beneath the streetlight. The scene looked oddly familiar, just like that night months ago. But this time there was no fear, no hunger, just gratitude. What's next? Logan asked. I go back to New York for the second half of the residency, he said, then maybe publish a book. I'm heading to Nashville again, Lily said. They want me to record a second EP. Charles chuckled. Busy kids. We'll always come back here, Lily said. To this place, to you. Charles looked at them both, eyes misty. And I'll always be here. The snow danced around them, soft and quiet. From the harsh winter streets to the warmth of a stage, the Miller twins had traveled far, but never forgotten where they started. And neither had Charles. Because sometimes all it takes is one act of kindness to change not just one life, but 3, forever. Lily and Logan's journey from cold streets to creative stardom is a powerful reminder that talent can bloom in the unlikeliest places, and that one act of kindness can change everything. Their story shows that with the right support, even those who feel invisible can rise and inspire the world. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs hope today. And remember, sometimes being the person who believes in someone else is the greatest gift you can give.